Welcome to part 2 of Basic Strategic Introduction to Strategic Planning for Churches that don't strategically plan well. In this episode, we're going to look at how going backwards can actually help you go forward.
Sometimes you gotta go back to actually move forward.
Spiritually speaking, going backwards isn't something they teach in pastor school. This summer, I'm going on a birthday trip. It's a gift from my wife. Can you guess where we're going? No, you can't. We're going to Banff in Alberta, Canada. And I'm trying to plan the trip, but here's the deal. We have to be back on the 11th. Now, I'm not going to tell you what month you're going to come and rob my house. We have to be back on the 11th. It doesn't matter when we leave, and it doesn't matter how long we're gone. We just have to be back on the 11th. Our vision is to go on this trip, but our goal is to be back on the 11th, like I said. So I'm planning the trip backwards. I start being home on the 11th. Then I plan the day before that where we are and when we leave. The day before that, we're going to be in Glacier National Park for a couple of days. Then before that, we're going to be in Banff. That has 2 F's. We're going to be in Banff for 5 days. And then the other parts of the trip are just traveling days, and we can determine how long we want to be gone. Do you get it? The planning of the trip had to start at the end, and we had to backtrack in order to find out where we were going, how long we were staying places, and when we actually started. So we're getting back on the 11th, and we're leaving on the 2nd. Strategic planning and backward engineering essentially works like this. Think about it. Next Saturday, you want to mow the grass at your house. But a strategic planner asks, what do I need in order to mow the grass? I'm going to need a mower, I'm going to need gasoline, and I'm going to need a Pop-Tart before I go out and mow the grass. So knowing that's what's got to happen, I go get gasoline, I make sure the mower's ready, and I go make sure I have some Pop-Tarts. That's a backward engineered plan, starting with mowing the grass and ending with, I got to go buy some supplies. Strategic planning is a way of thinking. There are not really scientific formulas for making it happen. It's a thought process and it's a skill, a practice skill. Now, of course, pastors hear from God. They get a dream in their head, they see the end result. But what happens a lot of times is this. A pastor has prayed about, thought about, really processed out what his dream is. But we assume that everyone else is going to process at the same speed that we do. We kind of expect people to catch up to something we've already been thinking about for quite a while. And because we're leaders, we expect people to catch our vision as soon as we say it. And the thought is that the people will jump on board as fast as the pastor did, or faster. In reality, churches are like a giant ocean-going ship. They take time to turn, and the captains of a big ship know that you have to actually start the turn long before you ever get to the place where the turn actually happens. And as pastors, we have got to realize that people in our congregations, well, they take time to process things. They need time to process. So the pastor needs to communicate strategically. And to do that well, you need a plan.
Russians don't take a dump, son, without a plan.
Okay, as I tried to communicate in the first episode of this, planning and strategic planning are different. And the best way, I think, to illustrate a strategic plan is to walk you through a strategic plan of an actual church event. So, it's February here at World Headquarters. That's what I call my house. And our church is planning its annual summer campout that's in July. That's, 5. That's 5 months away. Some of you are thinking, man, that is way too early to be planning a summer event. Not for a strategic planner. So, let's start at the beginning.
Let's start at the very beginning. A very good place to start.
Okay, see if this makes sense. Here are my steps to backward engineering this beast. The first thing, which is actually at the end, is have the camp out. Now that we've had the camp out, it is time to start sharpening our proverbial Abraham Lincoln axe. Before the camp out has happened, it's time to plan, it's time to schedule, and it's time to engineer backwardsly. Yeah, backwardsly. Backwardsly? Yeah. And thus, there are decisions to be made. As this glorious campout is scheduled for July 20th, we have to think, at what time, what date do we want to stop the registration before the event? So let's say July 15th. Okay, now that we know when registration ends, when do we want to start taking reservations? We're going to say May 6th. Okay, now in order for people to register, we have to first promote the camp out to the church. So when and how do we start promoting it? Well, we're going to start promoting it on April 22nd. Okay, so we know when we're going to promote it, but we got to have the stuff to actually promote it with. We need materials, we need brochures, we need graphics, we need images for video screens in church, we need stuff for the website. In order to get all that stuff done so we can start promoting on April 22nd, we need a date when all of this promotional material is finished and approved. I chose a fairly early date of April 1st. That gives us plenty of time to make edits and changes. Well, okay, now we know we can register, we can promote, and we've got all the materials that we need to promote. Awesome. Oh, wait. Who the crap's going to put all this stuff together? Who is going to make all these materials? Who's going to put them all together? So we got to pick a person to be in charge of graphics and promotional materials. So let's pick that person, make sure they are committed to the project by March 1st. That seems reasonable. Backwards engineering still, for that person to make the graphics, he or she is going to need every bit of information possible. To get all that promotional information done, they're going to need to know information like the place, the date, the times, what are the facilities like, what is the location? How long does it take for people to get there? They're going to need a map to know how to get there, and they're going to need a map of the camp layout so they can find where they are. They're going to need to know the cost of the trip, and they're going to need to know the capacity of the campsite itself, and so how many people can go. They're also going to have to know whether or not we can have a campfire. That may seem like a dumb question. However, contrary to what most people think about the state of Oregon, it gets really, really dry here in the summer. I mean, like, it doesn't rain for 3 months, and you can't swing a dead cat without starting a forest fire. Okay, we're moving backwards. We've had the camp out, we've had registration, we've had the promotion, we've had the promotional materials made, and we've had the person in charge of promotional materials chosen. What next? Well, before that, we have to reserve the camp out location and set that date in the calendar. Without this, we have no camp out, and there's nothing to promote. What I am saying is that the camp out location and the date has to be nailed down by February 28th. But you know, we got to figure out how to, first off, get all that information about the campsite so we can make all the promotional materials. To do that, somebody's got to be placed in charge. They are the owner and the leader of the whole campout, and the leader is going to be chosen by February 4th. That gives us plenty of time to get details and nail them down. And if you think about it, before anybody can ever be assigned as leader of the campout, we actually have to decide, hey, we're going on a campout. And to be honest, that summer campout idea was made in 2012. We have backward engineered all the way to the decision to have a campout. And having backwards engineered this is actually the place to start.
Let's start at the very beginning.
It's kind of crazy, but 5 months in advance, we have a backward engineered strategic plan for a campout. But remember, there's always the unexpected. There are steps that we have missed. There are things that we have forgotten. Plus, all the creative stuff that fills in the gaps that we have left between those steps. The stuff that makes the retreat really fun. Now that we've backward engineered, this seems like a good place to stop or pause. In the next episode, we're going to look at this camp out, and we're going to start with an action plan, and we're going to start moving forward chronologically from the first decision to the camp out itself and even after the camp out itself. And we're going to fill in the spaces between each one of these steps with some fun stuff and some detail stuff that we just have to work on. Until then, leave us a comment. Does the idea of backward engineering freak you out? Do you think it's unnecessary? Do you do this regularly yourself already? And if so, on what type of stuff? Let us know in the comments. And in a shameless plug, I'm going to ask you to subscribe so you will know when part 3 is coming. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do.